Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Eats by Joe. I'm Alejandro, and for this episode I'm pretty pumped because we're doing one of my absolute favorite foods ever, chicken wings. Now I'm actually quite well known amongst my friends as, the Wing King, my love of wings and love of eating hot wings. And of course I've done a lot of experimenting with cooking wings as well, so I'm going to show you how I make them. So let's get cracking. Okay, so obviously our first step is we need to get some chicken wings. So what I've got here is I've got about 2 kilos worth. Now, what I do is clearly optional, but it's something that I would definitely recommend, which you might have heard done with fried chicken, southern style, is where they marinate it in buttermilk. But what I do is actually use yogurt, which works pretty much exactly the same. You've got the acid in there as well. So once you get your wings, first thing you want to do is chuck it in a little plastic bag, whether it's a Ziploc or a vacuum bag or anything like that. You want to salt the wings quite generously, and then just give it a few tablespoons of yogurt, just enough to cover it all. And you can leave that in overnight. I totally forgot to do that, but if you're like me, you'll have a vacuum machine, and that basically can help speed up the process. So first thing we need to do once we've done this little bit is we need to rinse off all the yogurt. So quite simply, just throw those wings into like a pasta strainer or some sort of sieve or colander, rinse off all the yogurt, and then chuck it in a bowl or something and pat it dry. Right, now that I've cleaned off my wings of the yogurt and patted them dry, the next step is to then portion it into smaller sizes. Now, as you can see, we've got a whole wing here, and you're more than welcome to leave it that way if you like. I just think it eats a bit better when they're portioned into smaller bits. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to take off the wing tips. They can be saved for a stock later on down the track, and we're just going to separate it into the wingettes and the drumette. Which, how you do that is quite easy. Simply just feel along those joints there. You'll feel right in the middle, and that is where you want to take a sharp knife and just cut right through. If you're cutting in the right spot, it should cut through pretty easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and break up all my chicken wings here. Okay, so as you can see, I've now got some nice little wingettes and drumettes. And all those wing tips I've just put away to make stock at a later date. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is make a dry rub for the wings. Now what we're going to need for the dry rub is ground cinnamon, sweet paprika, cumin, some chili flakes, optional, or chili powder, good quality salt, and the secret ingredient is baking powder. Now this is what's going to sort of take these wings and make them next level, because what it does is actually changes the pH of the skin of the chicken wings, and so that when they're finished they're actually going to end up really nice and crispy on the outside, much like if you were to deep fry them. But today we're not going to be deep frying, we're actually going to be baking, so this is super important to get that perfect finish. So to start, 1 tablespoon of our baking powder, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of dried chilies, or a bit more, 1 tablespoon of ground cumin, and 1 tablespoon of the sweet paprika, and we'll go with about half a tablespoon of our ground cinnamon. Now you just want to whisk that up. Alright, and there we have it. Once it's whisked, you should see it all nice and combined there. All we have to do is to toss it in the wings. Now I really recommend not using your hands to mix it all around, because what's going to happen is it's going to clump to your hands, and that way you're going to have unevenly coated wings, which is not great. So just pour it a little bit at a time, and we're just going to toss it. That should evenly distribute the rub all over those wings. Alright, as you can see, my wings are nice and evenly coated. So they're just about ready, but what I would do is leave that to sit for at least an hour or two. That way you got to let that rub with the salt and the baking powder, penetrate the chicken and do its job. Alright, so I've let my chickens sit for a couple of hours. And then what I've done is I've basically got a couple of roasting pans that I've lined with baking paper and a little bit of oil just to make sure they don't stick. And I've kind of arranged them so that I've got drumettes in one and wingettes in the other. And also trying to make sure that there is not touching as much as I possibly can, because that way that's going to make your life a whole lot easier to turn them once we're cooking them. So next, make sure you have a preheated oven. I've got mine heated to 180 degrees Celsius, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw those wings in there for 20 minutes. Then we're going to pull them out, flip them, crank the heat up to 200 degrees Celsius, and then let it cook for another 15, and hopefully that extra bit of heat at the end will help them crisp up real nice. So set your timer and throw them in. Now there's plenty of time to crack a beer. There we have it, folks. There is my ultimate baked chicken wings. Now from here you could toss it in your favorite sauce, or do the buffalo style thing where you melt some butter and put some like Frank's or something in there, which I do sometimes do, but for this time around I'm actually going to leave them as is. That way while I'm eating them I can play around with different hot sauces. So hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see me cook, please leave suggestions in the comments below, and see you next time.